and then just kind
Hello, I'm Will.
Nice to meet you. Robert.
Robert, pleasure.
Filling in for Carol.
Awesome. Welcome.
Oh, walk right past.
Almost shot it out.
Sure, how it goes. All right, you ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Town Center Advisory Board for Thursday, February 20th, 2025. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Chair Stephenson,
Present?
Committee Member Cantrell.
Here.
Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, can't roll.
Great. Committee Member Castillo-White.
of here.
Committee Member Andrews. Did he officially resign? Okay. Committee Member Knight.
Present.
Committee Member Rizzo.
Present.
Committee Member Kester.
Here.
Committee Member Hill.
Yes.
Vice Chair Prickett.
Here.
Committee Member Winters.
Here.
All right, with that, I would like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Committee Member Rizzo will be leading us this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we're going to do just a little adjustment to the agenda for this evening, and we will take public comment next. And seeing no one in chambers, is there anyone online wishing to address the committee this evening during public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Next order of business is elections. Our chair, Zach Andrews, has moved up to council, becoming kind of a thing now. And so we will need to elect officers, and these will be officers until June 30th of this year. And so at this time, I would like to open nominations for Town Center Advisory Board Chair.
Mr. Staff, or Chair Staff, what are you? I mean.
I'm here.
Committee Member Stephenson, I move that, I recommend that you be chair of the committee. Ken
Second.
Stephenson.
Okay,
And I'll second.
okay. Other nominations for Chair of the Town Center Advisory Board?
I move we close.
Okay,
I second.
Okay.
Sherry seconds.
okay. And then we move on to Vice Chair.
I nominate Shirley Prickett.
Second.
Okay. Other nominations for Vice Chair, please?
I would like to nominate Will, just because he's been on both town centers, and I appreciate you being here, Nick.
This is Robbie, all second. Okay. Other nominations for Vice Chair?
I would decline if Shirley wants to continue. Or,
It doesn't matter,
okay.
so if you want, you can.
Either way is fine by me. Yeah, I can decline.
Okay, so we'll take, you guys will figure that out now, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
if he says it's okay, I'll step in.
Okay,
That's fine by me, yeah.
okay. So you want to decline that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that would basically mean you, and then we need to vote on that slate.
Yes, however, Tanny, because you're already chair of the planning commission and budget committee, you can't be chair of a third committee within the city according to
The charter.
the,
Is an advisory board different than a committee?
They're all the same.
They're all the same?
Um, You want,
Okay,
okay,
This is Sherry. I don't know a lot about it, but it seemed like there was something in a rule that didn't include this kind of a committee in it. I might be wrong, but
I'll nominate Mel for chairman.
second.
okay.
Change your votes.
You see how that works? I'm willing to stay in vice, if that's what everyone, I don't care.
You want to be?
To be the vice chair.
Yeah, okay.
I will decline vice chair. You could be vice. I nominate Tanny Stephenson for vice chair.
And I'll second Victoria.
Okay. So we need to vote on, first we'll vote on chair.
Yes.
Will Knight for chair. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. And then for vice chair, all those in favor of Tanny Stephenson signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries as well. All right. Come on
Oh,
down.
my goodness.
Congratulations, Will.
Thank you.
We'll help you out.
Good, thank you. I will mention right now that April is already looking like a meeting that we need to study.
You might want-
Yeah.
Might need to
We
be
down in southeast Oregon, last time I was there, I had trouble even seeing anything, so. Okay.
You want to take that with you. If you don't,
Thank you. Okay, so, thank you, and let's move on to, number 3, the adoption of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review those, and does anybody see any changes they would like to bring to the group? Any, public comment on number 3? Okay. Any discussion about the minutes at all? Any comments, questions, additions? If not, do we hear a recommendation to approve?
Chair, I move we approve the December meeting minutes.
Is there?
I second it. This is Shirley Prickett.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that we approve the adoption of the December 19th, 2024 meeting minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Let's see, I think we already did public comments. Okay, so let's please move to discussion number 5, the next steps in the RFQ process.
yeah, I know. I turned down planning.
Is it gonna work like magic? Takes a second. Last night it was a little slow too. There we go. Okay, Marley didn't talk about these since Sure. All right. Okay, everyone, so you received a very exciting email from me on, February 7th. But the RFQ is officially live and we will, be accepting responses for the next 2 months. So we thought it would be good to map out the timeline and the milestones of the project so that we can all look to the head and be prepared for what is to come in these next few months. It's going to be a very busy spring, so
we'll have a lot to do to review the different proposals that we receive and make those recommendations to the Urban Renewal Board. Tonight, we're starting obviously with our TCAB meeting, and then we're hosting a walking tour for potential developers who are interested, and if you guys want to attend, you can, on March 6th, but that'll be from 2 to 4 so that people can see the site. We have our next TCAB meeting on March 20th, and at that meeting, we will be providing you with some evaluation criteria and interview questions for your review. Some of you were on the committee the previous go around with the RFQ process and may recall that we had to do a lot of catching up and not a lot of preparing ahead with some of this. So we took a little bit longer to review than I think we hoped to do this go around. So we're trying to get this information to you prior to those RFQs being submitted to us. That way we're ready to go. So at that meeting, you'll be reviewing the evaluation criteria, which might look pretty similar to last time, but we can talk about changes and modifications and those interview questions that we want to propose to the URA board. On April 4th, the RFQ proposals are due, and then we are planning on giving you an early packet for the April meeting. So the April 7th, which is a Monday, we're actually going to be giving you the packet so that you have more time to review the proposals. In that packet, we're just going to have all of the proposals and that finalized evaluation criteria that you worked on at the previous meeting. And then we'll have our actual meeting on the regular April 17th. At that meeting, you guys will be reviewing all of those proposals and making a recommendation to the URA board on who to interview and what you would like those final interview questions to be. Rather than just, this is just getting to that step where we're determining who we're going to interview for that. So we'll make that recommendation, and then on April 29th, the URA board will be meeting, and they will finalize the interview questions, who we are interviewing, who's on the interview panel, and get us prepared for that next step, which is the actual interviews themselves. Last time, they decided to have, I believe it was 2 or 3 people from the Urban Renewal Area board and 2 people from TCAB represented on the actual panel itself, but those interviews were open to the public, so anyone on TCAB was welcome to attend in person if they wanted to attend in person, but we also had them recorded and we made them available to you all to be reviewed afterwards. So it'll be that same, it might not be the same structure for who's in the actual interview panel, but we will make sure that those interviews are available to you all after the meeting if you're not able to attend.
Just one clarification on that.
Sure.
They were able to dial in live to the meeting.
Yeah.
And they were also able to, people on the committee were able to submit questions to us.
People on which?
On the TCAB that we're not interviewing. Okay, we're able to submit questions.
Did we have questions live as we went, or did we have them all?
We had some live as we went, yeah.
Okay. I will rewatch the interviews and remember that at a later date, but I'll take your word for it now. So that'll be the process for
Marley?
this. Yep.
Okay, just one quick one too. When a lot of us attended that were not able to ask questions, and so my recommendation would be that the interview panel would sit like where you 4 are, so that we could actually see faces, because it just like, we put a lot of work in, got to that point, and it was a little frustrating not being able to, like everybody was looking that way, and we're looking at their back. So
Yeah.
just we could maybe feel a little bit more part of the process and just see, get to know these people that are making their proposals. That would just be a recommendation
Yeah.
from me.
That's a great recommendation, and we don't have to have this room set up in the dais formation that it is right now. We can do something different. Last time we had left it set up like this, and I think you guys had provided that feedback at that time, so that is a great recommendation. Sorry, I don't know what just happened, but it looks like
Disconnected, it's connecting again, sorry. Come on, Zoom.
So we will rearrange the room differently, at least so that
Maybe we'll have like a
Side.
big, the table formation is good.
If they're there though, they could see the screen too, if they have anything that they're talking
usually
about
have
and looking,
the-
right?
Do you think it would be better if they, like, we did 2 tables like this and they were sitting here with their presentation behind them and our backs were to you?
No, I think
Or if
just
we just do
if
it
they're,
like
if they're
this.
like right there where you guys are, and then
Where do you want whoever's on the interview panel? to
in the
be?
interview, yeah, who's presenting, and then the rest of you are here.
Everyone can
Yeah,
see
and then,
them.
and the rest of us that aren't getting asked questions, we're just right here.
Okay.
But at least we get to see faces and they could see their presentation. You can see their their presentation as well.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Okay, great. Okay, so then we are, where did we leave off? So that URA board meeting will be on April 29th. This is not currently a scheduled meeting, so we need to finalize that date with the city manager. Once we have that confirmed, we'll be sure to let you all know. And then we are anticipating that we could do the interviews on May 15th. And that is when a TCAB meeting is regularly scheduled, but we wouldn't have our TCAB meeting because of the interviews. And we're not sure the timing of like what time in the day those interviews would occur. But just letting you know, there wouldn't be a regular TCAB meeting that day. And then, May 29th, this is not currently a scheduled TCAB regular meeting. So it's a special meeting that we will be calling for you all to have a discussion post-interview and make a recommendation to the URA board on the RFQ proposals, who you think would be best for the city to work with on this project. And then June 17th, we are proposing to have a URA meeting board where they will make that final selection process. So all in all, it's a couple months out and involves a number of different meetings and interviews and whatnot, but this is the schedule that we've got so far, and if you have any feedback.
Tentative schedule.
Yeah, tentative, it's not,
It's pretty
it's on this
dialed in.
paper, but still have to schedule a couple of things, but if you have any feedback or comments or concerns or questions about the process, please let us know now or later.
Any questions or comments? Any public questions or comments?
No, one quick question.
Diane?
This is Diane. Do we have anybody interested at this time? Inquiries?
Yeah, we've received a number of emails from a few developers letting us know that they were interested and that they planned on submitting some responses, so.
Thank you.
And a couple of people with questions as well. Yep.
This is Robbie. I see the website for the Confluence site. Is the RFQ published anywhere else on any databases or anything like specific to requests?
It is on the website. It was put in a press release by Greater Portland Inc., which is the economic development agency that connects a lot of developers and cities in the area. So they did a press release and helped us put the word out for that and posted on their LinkedIn page. And I don't believe that it's on any boards beyond we also did a press release, a flash alert press release. So it was picked up by a couple of media outlets. But I don't believe that there is a board that it is currently sitting on.
No worries. My profession is in the RFP response management industry, and so typically a lot of my customers, they'll use like a site called RFP Finder or something like that also cross applies to RFQs and things along those lines. So I was just curious if any of those methods for publication were pursued, or if it was more of a local strategy, which it seems like it is.
More of a local strategy, and it was emailed to a whole list of
Yeah.
development teams and firms out there who do this type of work.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for including that. There was a whole spreadsheet of people who got it landed in their inbox directly, so, yeah.
Any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, let's go ahead and look forward to update on trail construction.
Yes, so many of you are probably aware that there's been a lot of activity going on between Depot Park and the Confluence site. The contractors, Gulf Construction, are out there moving dirt and doing a lot of work on that trail and park area. At this time, we still anticipate that the trail and park will open in late summer. So that's good news. Other than that, I'm really here to, answer any questions that you may have at this time. But I just wanted to let you know that things are moving, things are going good.
Quick question, it is probably more in the direction of the people who were on that group. I remember seeing that there was some naming discussions at parks. And I was curious as to what, just because I haven't had a chance to look at the recording yet, what came out of that.
I'd love to let Diane say what we ended up naming the park.
Okay, their proposal, recommendation
Recommendation.
to council will be Sharon Nesbitt Heritage Park.
The reason why I pointed to Diane was because she was one of the many who came and presented in support of that name. So we went the Sharon Nesbitt Heritage Park, and then for the Choctaw Trail, I'll let Frank Stevens, could you shout out the name?
Mary Tibbet.
There we go. Mary Tibbet for the other section of the Choctaw Trail.
Cool.
Any public comment or questions? Okay, downtown parking study, here we come.
Yes, we had our third TAC meeting for the downtown parking study yesterday, and it was a really productive meeting. We've been receiving a number of inquiries and comments from the public regarding downtown parking recently and wanting to know what the next steps are on that study. So right now we're working with the consultants on creating both a virtual open house and an in-person meeting format. I think that, have we determined which committees we want it to be at? I think we wanted to combine some, and I can't remember which ones. Well, TCAP's got a lot on their agenda, so maybe not that one, but there's gonna be
I
a
would say we
meeting.
could be inviting everyone.
Everyone will be invited, absolutely, but it might not fall, I don't think it's gonna fall on one of your meeting nights. It'll
No.
probably fall on a different committee's meeting night. But we are putting together this virtual open house and this in-person open house to be able to share out the findings that we have so far on the parking study and survey, which you all have taken a look at, and then also the recommended phasing for some implementation strategies on how to help alleviate or help, resolve a couple of those problems. It's broken down into different phases, and there's clear objectives in each of those phases of things that we can do. And we'll be asking for some feedback at that meeting as well. And we really want feedback to come also with the thought process of what solutions can we bring to the table, more so than just what complaints can we bring to the table. Because, we really need to be thinking about solutions and what could be the best solution for a scenario versus just complaints for the scenario. So there's gonna be options, and how we're sort of imagining it is, given all the phasing options that exist and the items under those, what we want to ask people, what of those solutions do they believe would help alleviate their specific concern the most? That way we can tie some of these solutions to the complaints and the problems that we're hearing about, versus just letting it be a free-for-all or just saying, here it is, how does it look? So we're going to be asking for some feedback on that. We also will have a virtual open house for the Sandy River Shuttle. And these virtual open houses are really nice because they lay out the whole project and they give you all of the background information while also asking for feedback on specific items. So we'll be able to help educate and ask for feedback. It's really great. And that's our progress on that. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that one?
One quick question. I know in the previous presentations on the shuttle, and then also sort of in conjunction with the various solution gathering on the parking study, one of the things that I noticed was distinctly absent was a proposed location for like a park and ride or two. And has there been any potential sites identified to fit that bill? Because that seems like that would be sort of a really necessary, critical component for a shuttle to make sense.
Yeah, so in the alternatives analysis that we're working on for the shuttle, it is assuming the outlet mall is actually serving some of that purpose because there's an identified shuttle provider that is opening a storefront in the outlet mall and has an agreement with the outlet mall to use parking spaces for their business. So it ties in with that. For future long-range planning though, we have identified that there is potentially a site on the confluence that could be utilized as a mobility hub, which would include parking and connections with different transit providers, whether that's going out into the gorge or going into Portland on TriMet, and being able to rent bikes and other things too. So the long-range plan is to try to find a solution within the confluence, and the short-range plan is utilizing that existing agreement that this shuttle provider has with the outlet mall.
Any other comments or questions from the room? Any public comment or questions?
I actually do have one. Sorry. You were talking a lot about feedback, gathering the solution-oriented feedback from the constituents and community. Do you have a method via which we're sending out the survey or query for feedback?
So we'll have the virtual open house, which is the ArcGIS story maps
Okay.
format of presenting it. The city Facebook page has 8,000 followers, which is pretty impressive for a town of 16,000. So go Kevin, that's really grown a lot since he's been in his role. But we'll definitely be posting it on all of the different city social media pages on the city website. We do have a list of people who are interested in the topic who would receive the email. We have a downtown business list, so they will all receive direct emails with the information and an invite to the meeting. We have the business emails of every business in the city, but I think the ones most interested in this topic will absolutely be the ones within that downtown area. And if the timing is right for the champion, we may be able to get it in the champion. Sometimes that's a little bit more difficult because it runs every 2 months. So you have to get things pretty far in advance, and sometimes the months don't line up just right for what you're trying to publish. But the goal would also be to get it in the champion as well.
Cool. The reason why I bring it up is because Sherry and I on the Public Safety Committee, we were engaging in the public safety survey where we collected, I have this spreadsheet pulled up, 170 responses. About halfway through collecting that survey, or more so when we had 50 or 60 responses, lots and lots of comments regarding parking and downtown traffic and things like that. What I did was I added an additional question saying, hey, if you want the city to reach out to you with further updates about any of this stuff, please leave your name and email. I think looking through the spreadsheet, I probably have 60 or 70 emails, and the majority of those that we went through had comments about parking and downtown traffic and things like that. So would it be valuable for me to send that over so you could source those emails?
Yeah, absolutely. We would definitely welcome that, and that kind of speaks to a larger goal or something that we would like to work on in the future with being able to have a compiled list of those people who are interested in specific topics. So that's something we've been exploring internally, and we don't have like a set policy or procedure yet for it, but it is something that we're trying to get figured out so that we can have some sort of email communication in the future where people could mark specific topics that they're interested in, so we can segment those emails when we send them out. But it's still in the works, but we'll definitely welcome that in the meantime.
Sweet. I'll just email you over the spreadsheet, and then you can grab the emails from it.
Thank you. Sweet.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Well, I have one.
Yeah.
When you're doing this virtual, will it have kind of like a route, maybe kind of proposed route that the shuttle's gonna go and wrap around?
Yeah, there is 5 different proposed routes that we'll be gathering feedback on. And we'll also have some other questions about the service that we're trying to get a better understanding of. One of our main questions is, how many people are going to ride this exclusively for floating the Sandy River, and how many people would use it to go to downtown or to go to one of the other destinations? Like, how many people are doing it for the exclusive floating down the river and that's it? And how many people could be interested in it if it was something larger than just that? Because that'll help us if we do the pilot program to figure out the exact scope of what that shuttle could look like too.
Diane, I have some questions. Since you're early on the shuttle and exploring, floating down the Sandy River, have you floated down the Sandy River before? Okay, good, okay. So, there may be some, I don't know how you do it legal-wise, safety-wise, but to make some suggestions. So when you're floating down, a lot of times you're gonna hit like 1 inch, and the water levels change, and sometimes, I've been in my kayak and been to Dabney Park and made it home in 10 minutes, too fast. Okay. And there's other times it takes an hour. So, like Deschutes does, I think they do like how fast the river's flowing and stuff like that, but recommendations like tennis shoes, you may fall off your raft, or your float, it may pop. You know, I don't know how you could recommend, but then be in trouble if you recommend something and it goes awry or whatever, but, so some things like that, or, I don't know, just a few cautions. Temperature of the water. A lot of times in the end of the day, there's a breeze blowing, so you think you're just swimming up, going along, you got a late start, the wind's blowing, you're not moving. So that what you thought was only gonna take a couple hours, at nighttime, there's people still splashing in the dark. And they're kicking, and then their loved ones are there and they're worried because screaming further, you know, there's some little things like, I'm hoping that they really understand, the timing, the length, and the safety measures. Also, don't tie up to each other. There's been accidents that happen like that as well, tying up, and just, a long time ago, there was somebody who was taking pottery class with her son, was practicing for the Olympics, to get the qualifier for the Olympics. Him and his friend went on the Sandy River kayaking. He flipped over. There was a log. You can't anticipate when there's trees that come down or whatever, or where these certain spots happen. He drowned. He had and his body didn't show up till 2 weeks, till the Troutdale Bridge. We live there long enough that we see all these little situations that occur. So I don't know how to address cautions or times, or just that you should be a swimmer, or don't recommend small children that don't have the capacity to swim. So I'm just kind of cautious on that, because it sounds like a really fun thing, but every time we've done it and we try to have smaller kids or people who didn't have their tennis shoes, and then they're slipping and then they're getting scared, because then the water all of a sudden does get deeper, and it depends, did it rain? Is there some snow melt that occurred? All of a sudden we can't see through the water because then it's frothy white, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just saying there's a lot of considerations. It's a living, moving, active, beautiful thing. Yeah, it just throwing that out there.
Yeah, so right now, we're actually currently writing a grant for the next phase of this to hopefully get funding for the pilot program, so that we'll see if we're successful in getting that grant, we could have money to be doing this in the near future. And that is obviously the goal, you know, we've gotten really positive feedback. Everyone we've talked to really wants this to happen, but river safety does come up as, you know,
priority.
it's a high priority. And so, one of the things we can do with the Explore Troutdale website is have guides on how to float the Sandy River, and that's something that Kevin and I have talked about in the past, and how right now we have a guide on how to visit Multnomah Falls, because it's so confusing in the summer, and so we'll have another guide that is how to float the Sandy River. And I'm really big on making sure people have all the information, like information overload, but trying to make it look very presentable. Another thing that we have talked about is with the shuttle service, if people are renting the tubes through the concessionaire who's operating the shuttle, then we have the higher quality tubes that are less likely to break on the river, which I think is important too. And we have some opportunities to get more information in front of people before they start floating the river and be an authority source on information for the river. I found a lot of old information online on floating the Sandy. There was a paddle guide that I think lives on the City of Sandy's website. It's very old. It still has our address as Old City Hall, so you know, it's at least 2011 or earlier. So we want to get a lot of that information updated, and we can do that regardless of the shuttle program through Explore Troutdale. But we're also talking about different ways that we can get information to people when they're taking the bus. Like if they rent a tube, it could come with a dry bag that has QR code, you know, all sorts of information, and safety kits if the tube were to pop and stuff like that. So the repair kits. So we're talking about all those safety measures and trying to make sure that whatever we design or create, safety is.
And life jackets for everyone.
And life jackets for everyone, yes.
Okay, that's great. It's only going as far as Dabney and not Oxbow?
At this time, it's not proposed to include Oxbow.
Yeah, good, 'cause that's a long
That's a
haul.
long
I've done it a lot.
That's a
My
day.
kayak,
I tried to do
yeah,
that
it's-
and did not
yeah.
make it.
Yeah. No, just Dabney to Glen Otto, and then what you'll see when you see the alternatives is a couple of the alternatives include Lewis and Clark State Park. And what we're trying to figure out is, you know, do we include Lewis and Park in the beginning? It adds time to do that because it's easier to go from Glen Otto to Dabney for the route for the shuttle. So there's a lot of different things to consider in there, routing wise, when you take a look at those alternatives too.
Thank you.
This is Shirley.
Sure.
Will the visitor center have the same information like in a little brochure? Because that would be, a lot of people visit there, and that would be a good place to say, it's required that you have a life jacket and all the information you need to be safe on the river.
Yeah.
Because I think people, especially if that's gonna be the hub part
Mm-hmm.
of the trail and stuff, that would be, I'm just asking if that was a part of that thought.
Yeah.
the thought process.
Yeah, and we're hoping to make it in multiple languages as well, so that it's more accessible to more people who might be using the river.
Thank you.
I had one more quick thing, kind of back to the parking study, because I know some of the original counts and analysis was done before Wayfair went in. And particularly the piece of information that I think would be interesting is the quantity of time that some of these streets are basically single lane roads. Cause I know there's large chunks of time during the busy hours in the evening where Second Street is a single lane road. There's large chunks of the day these days where Fourth Street is a single lane road for portions of it. So I mean, being able to document how often there's parking on both sides of the street where you can't have two travel lanes anymore would be a useful piece of information.
Yeah, I believe that the study does document, like the capacity or like how full, the words are escaping me, but like basically the level of fullness the street is, and it's kind of worded in a way where it's like easier to imagine in a parking lot and a little bit more difficult to imagine when it's a street because it's just a different type of parking. I think the challenge in that is that you can have cars on both sides of the street, but if they're staggered, it's easier to maneuver than if it's fully, like every single parking space is full. it's a little bit harder to document. But one of the things that the management plan does recommend or discuss is continuing to evaluate like the future impacts and reassessing the counts periodically so that we can continue to ensure that like we're not exceeding the expectations at a given point. And we're not underestimating the impacts.
Yeah, cause like one of the things that I worry about on occasion is like, particularly like when I'm coming down here, if I turn onto Second Street, and it's completely parked on both sides, there's a long runway there where if somebody turns in, you've got nowhere to go on both ends, and
It happened to me earlier today.
and then potentially, like on 4th Street by me too, where you've got a lot of public works traffic, and half of that street being parked on both sides during the day. It's potentially some less than safe driving conditions.
It's hard to back up. I mean, I have trouble backing up in parallel parking, but back up a long distance on a road with cars on both sides, it would be bumper cars.
Yeah, it's interesting because you don't want a lot of driveways on the street because the more driveways you have, the less parking spaces you have. But when you have driveways, that's what creates those pockets where you can actually pull over. So it's kind of a double-edged sword because you don't want the driveway because that's a parking space on the street, but you do because then it gives you that buffer to be able to pull over so that someone can pass.
So they can pass.
Yeah,
Unless the parallel parking encroaches on the driveway, then you have other problems.
yeah, there's that too.
Any other thoughts or comments, questions regarding the downtown parking study? Any public comment, questions? Okay. Thank you for those. Staff communications.
I feel like I just did a lot of communicating, so.
Basically, you've done it all.
Yeah, I feel like I just did a lot of talking. I mentioned that we're gonna be applying for this grant and we'll be wrapping up the shuttle grant soon. Other grant information, do we have other grants that we're working on?
Oh, we have a lot of grants. We just received a $100,000 grant from Department of Conservation and Development for an urban forestry master plan, a development code audit for street trees, and a street tree manual.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be completing that this year, and that has been a priority for public works and parks for a couple of years now. So I think all 3 divisions are really excited about this project and getting it done for the city.
Yeah, that's gonna be really great. My mind's going completely blank on it, whether or not I have other things to communicate right now, but,
I don't think I have anything to communicate regarding, the town center and, the activities of this board. Other than the RFQ process that's moving along.
yeah, I feel like our discussion items were all of our talking points, so we can leave it at that.
Any last questions or comments for these two before we move on to the next
Can I
communication from each person? Go ahead.
This is Sherry. So you said you're writing to get a grant for, is it known ahead of time the amount the grant is for?
We can apply for up to $150,000.
Okay, and this pilot project, sorry, tuned in late in the game, so how much is it forecast to cost initially for the pilot project?
So this application is a little bit interesting because a concessionaire would be operating this and it wouldn't be a fully public transit service where you'd be funding the bus and the driver and all the operational costs. So we actually aren't necessarily funding the operation of the shuttle itself. It's more so funding the evaluation and the study of the pilot to like evaluate the success of it and whether it is something we want to continue to do, which is especially important for like state parks because it could have some, they generate revenue off of people parking at the park. So it could have some impacts. It could also result, we want to see what are the impacts on our parks, parking wise, visitation wise, same with the river. So there's a big part of that that's just like the evaluation. And then we're also planning on applying for some of the operational costs with the flotation devices, the life jackets, and making sure that we have funding for like designing shuttle sign information, stuff like that, like the river safety signs and whatnot. So that's what we're planning on applying for. But initially we had put in our letter of intent $150,000, but our tube quotes are lower, so we might be able to bring that down a little bit, but in the 100 to 150,000 range for all that evaluation. And then the shuttle operator itself would be able to run it like a regular business where they would collect fares and offer the services and pay for the services themselves. So we wouldn't be getting involved in the actual operation of the shuttle.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to advisory board communications. Should start over here with Diane on this side.
Okay, well, congratulations, Tammy and Will. And nice to see the new faces, and I look forward to this season of proposals. and I didn't know
Christmas card.
and I didn't know if there's some way that to identify the developers that are special and unique and whatever, and to do specific outreaches. I don't know what that might look like, but and because you said this goes in a lot of people's boxes, initially, I would hope that we would repeat that another send, soon after, in case somehow that does get missed, and somehow that, again, we do contact those that are doing projects exceptionally. So that's all I have.
I have nothing. Thank you.
I don't have much really either. Just, I'm continuing to do my own little documentation project of the apartments. Watching them go up is a fascinating thing, and right now watching my street fill up with tradesmen parking. So, but yeah, at some point I'll have a great big massive slideshow of pictures to show.
Well, feel free to send those to Kevin, and he's always looking for photos for any updates when we post things online and whatnot. And he's been posting trail progress photos, so if you have anything that you feel compelled to send to him, I can give you his email, or you can say something.
Danny.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the RFQ and the online comments. There's been a ton of them, which is really cool, and I don't know if everybody's read them or has not read them, but it's just kind of interesting, and I'm one voice and one opinion, but I just want to point out a couple of things, not one way or another, but just so everybody's kind of aware. How we got here was the Urban Renewal Plan of, 1996? Yeah. And one of the things that happened was we went out and asked the voters for $7.5 million to do a number of things down there. And in there, we listed a bridge going to downtown, improvements to 257th, the linear park, and the list goes on and on and on. And today it'd be more like 75 million instead of 7.5 million in today's dollars. But those are things that we told the voters that we were going to do. And it's kind of a sensitive thing for me just because of this building. And a lot of people in this community have got a little bit of City of Troutdale PTSD after what happened here. And I just want to make sure that as much as we can, we honor that commitment of what we said we were going to do. There's a lot of talk, hey, don't put anything there, leave it open, and other things, but just a couple things to consider is we spent millions more than what we would have to clean it up because we cleaned it up to residential standards. And I'm not saying you got to put 800 apartments down there, but we cleaned it up to a higher degree so that we could have people live down there because we've got a very large shortage in this town of higher end housing. And that was an area that we've looked at for many years to put higher end housing down there along with commercial development and hotel and all these other uses. Because a couple of other things, and it's not all about numbers because you don't want to make long-term decisions for short-term problems, but just these are things that we have to consider too, because that property is going to generate a significant amount of tax revenue, which I got to tell you the city really does kind of need. And if it was to remain open space or a park, there is no revenue off of that property ever. And well, you're probably like, well, we can get by without it. Yeah, we probably could. We just have to raise things up for other people to cover it. But then the other thing that happens is the $7.5 million that we borrowed, we have to pay that back because that money has to be paid back. And if it doesn't get paid back by a development down there, it gets paid back by the taxpayers. And so I'm not saying one way or another, but these are just things that everybody has to consider when we're thinking about what to do with a property like that. So thank you for letting me get on a soapbox.
Thank you.
I saw those comments too. I was perusing and parsing through them. So I agree with everything that you said. I think that a lot of people's indication is let's make it a park, and they don't know that we're building them a park right next to it. So I think that maybe members of this committee, they looking in those comments, because I think I saw the same post that you did, they were speaking a lot about going and protesting city council and things like that. I think that it's our job to kind of fill them in on the missing details that they don't know about. A lot of them didn't know that we were even building a park right next to this site, things like that. So I was looking through those. I had the urge to reply to them, but a lot of them were pretty harsh. So I did go and message a few people just to key them in on some of the missing details there. Ultimately, though, I agree with everything that you're saying. Unfortunately, I'm going to be gone for the next meeting in March, so I will be back in April. Very keen to be involved in this this season of proposals, as we're calling it. So that's it for me.
Jim?
Thank you, I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Victoria?
Well, I thought it was interesting, we had another brewery, a pop-up over at the pickleball. Did you know about that?
The what?
Another brewery?
Yeah.
So,
And they were joking, I think it was in the outlet, we're gonna be called gateway to the brewery.
and I also heard that the person that was supposed to make it into a pub brewery backed out of
In
the
City Hall,
city
yeah.
hall.
Yeah, away days is out.
That's kind of sad.
Yes, we are working on filling the space again with the same use. They had a approved special use permit for a brewery at that site, and so we would like to see that filled with another brewery or other similar makers. So we're responding to any inquiries that we get about that and seeing if we can find the right match for the city and help the developer, because the developer is still developing it at this time. It was just the partnership with the brewery is no longer intact. So we are gonna continue to recruit for the area and hopefully get something really great there. So that.
Is it up to the city and us to bring in that brewery, or is it kind of a joint venture between both?
A little bit of both. I mean, it's not solely our responsibility. I mean, at all, but we know that we want to get something good for the area, and so part of my job as the economic development coordinator is to recruit new businesses to Troutdale. So I do a lot of selling Troutdale when it's like I'm Troutdale's realtor. Or the downtown's realtor, really, which actually the first time I walked with the developer through that building, he asked if I was the commercial broker. And, and I was like, no, just work for the city. But yeah, so I do a lot of selling of Troutdale to businesses to try to get them to locate here in town. So I've reached out to a number of people who have shown interest in the past, and it will be to find someone in that space.
RFB, request for brewery.
Yeah, that's our next proposals we can review.
Oh, but I also want to thank you for all your hard work. You guys done a really great job keeping us informed. And I talked to everybody about the conference. Anybody I see that will sit and will talk.
Good,
So,
thank you.
Do you have any other comments, Victoria? Any more, Shirley?
nope, I've got it. Nope, that's it. Thank you again.
Well, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate y'all for taking the time to come in and be part of this. And very honored and thankful that you think that highly enough to put me in this chair. A little more prepared tonight. I'll be a little bit more on the ball next meeting when I have my mind set for what I'm about to attempt. Would anyone like to call for an adjournment of the meeting?
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a
Second.
Seconded by Adrian. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
This is just how she
Oh, was this
was.
for adjournment?
Facebook post,
So-
that announced
Quickly, just